Okay, what is up there, YouTube? This is J-Man Time, and today I have a video on some forgotten naval vessels from a forgotten conflict that is considered one of the shortest conflicts in human history. And this is the forgotten navy of the Zanzibar Sultanate, or the Sultanate of Zanzibar, during the Anglo-Zanzibar War of August of 1896. The Anglo-Zanzibar War is considered the shortest conflict in history, lasting just 38 to 45 minutes, and was fought between the Sultanate of Zanzibar versus the United Kingdom or Great Britain. Now, this conflict is mostly remembered for its land battle, but there was actually a naval battle that occurred during this short 38 to 45 minute long conflict between the British Royal Navy and the Navy of the Sultanate of Zanzibar. Now, the British Navy arrived in Zanzibar with 2 cruisers, 2 protected cruisers, and 3 gunboats, while the Zanzibar fleet had 1 frigate or corvette and a small number of gunboats or steam gunboats in service with the Sultanate of Zanzibar. Now, the Sultanate of Zanzibar was led by the Sultan himself, Khalid bin Barghash. And the captain of the small Zanzibar Navy was only mentioned as being named Captain Salah or Saleh. The Royal Navy, on the other hand, showed up with 2 protected cruisers and 3 gunboats. The HMS George, the HMS Fimo, the gunboats HMS Thrush, HMS Sparrow, and HMS Raccoon. During the entire battle, the British had just 1,500 men, both on land and at sea, and the Zanzibarian forces numbered some 2,800 in total, including the small number of Zanzibari sailors on board the small Zanzibari Navy. But in this video, we're going to focus on the Zanzibari fleet, which is rarely ever mentioned when this conflict is ever brought up. So it took me a while to research, but the Zanzibarians actually did have a somewhat outdated navy, but it was mostly comprised of 1 frigate or corvette and a number of improvised gunboats or armed yachts that had been purchased by the Sultan and his family over the course of some 30 years. So let's go over the forgotten fleet of Zanzibar, or the Sultanate of Zanzibar, during the Anglo-Zanzibar War of 1896. First, let's start with the flagship of the Zanzibari fleet, and that is the HMS Glasgow. The HHS stands for His Highness Ship Glasgow. Now, HMS Glasgow was a royal yacht, sometimes considered to be a frigate or a corvette of the Zanzibari Navy, that was constructed in Scotland by the William Denny and Brothers Shipbuilding Company in Scotland between the years of 1877 and 1878, and entered service with the Zanzibari fleet in the same year of 1878. She was actually modeled after the British frigate HMS Glasgow, which was built by the same ship company in 1861. The vessel had a displacement of 1,416 tons, and her main armament were 7 76mm muzzle-loading 9-pounder main guns, and she was also fitted with 1 11mm model 1875 Gatling gun, or British-made Gatling gun. She had no armor, as her hull was made of iron covered in teak and elm wood, and she was powered by 1 single compound steam engine, or 1 single compound vertical triple expansion steam engine with 1 2-bladed lifting propeller. Her speed was 12 knots, or 22.2 kilometers per hour, or 14 miles per hour. She was also fitted with 3 sails. Unlike most other steam-powered warships still in service by the late 1870s through 1880s, and especially by the year of 1896 during the Anglo-Zanzibar War. Her captain was only mentioned as Captain Salah or Captain Saleh, and he was present during the Battle of Zanzibar in 1896. Now, during the battle, or during the Anglo-Zanzibar conflict of 1896, in August of 1896, the British had begun bombarding the royal palace of the Sultan, and during this bombardment, the HMS Glasgow actually opened fire on the flagship of the British flotilla, the HMS George. HMS George responded with her 6-inch main guns, with both her 3 and 6-inch main guns, which ended up sinking the HMS Glasgow in less than 10 minutes of combat. During that time period, the surviving sailors of the Glasgow actually raised the British flag as a sign or token of surrender, and the remaining sailors were rescued by British sailors in steam launches that came from both HMS George and the other British cruiser/gunboats that were present in the Zanzibar harbor at the time. Her wreck actually stayed at the bottom of the Zanzibar harbor until the year of 1912, when she was demolished or partially scrapped by a British salvage company. Most of the wreck of HMS Glasgow is actually still present at the bottom of the Zanzibar harbor, with only her engine and a few other components being stripped or partially scrapped during the 1910s, 20s, and 1930s, thus ending the history of the flagship of the Zanzibari fleet of 1896. Now, during the naval battle of Zanzibar, the British gunboat HMS Thrust actually sank 2 other Zanzibari gunboats, sometimes referred to as steam launches, that were also accompanying the frigate or royal yacht HMS Glasgow. So here are the 2 other gunboats, or armed yachts is what they're actually referred to as in the history books. They were also sunk in combat by the Royal Navy in the harbor of Zanzibar in 1896. The first of the 2 vessels is the HMS Chiwani. Chukwani was an armed yacht or gunboat that was constructed in the year of 1884. She was actually the most modern vessel in the Zanzibari fleet and was also one of the smaller vessels, but was the 3rd largest overall in terms of all the ships that were part of the Zanzibari fleet in total. She had a displacement of at least 50 to 100 tons at maximum. She was armed with either one 11mm Gatling gun or one German-made Maxim machine gun, as Maxim machine guns were used by the Zanzibari forces during the fighting in 1896. Her speed is unknown, and it is unknown if she had any armor, and her crew capacity is also not mentioned, but she is one of the vessels that did attempt to take on the British gunboat HMS Thrush. During the fighting, she was ultimately sunk in combat, becoming the 2nd vessel of the Zanzibari fleet to be lost to the British Royal Fleet during this battle in 1896. The 3rd vessel that was sunk was a steam launch, or a improvised gunboat, known as the HMS Chiwaka. Chiwaka was a steam launch that was built sometime in the late 1870s or early 1880s. She was the smallest of the 3 vessels that were present at the Battle of Zanzibar. She was originally designed as a towing vessel for the Sultan's royal barge, which was kind of a luxury barge or miniature yacht used by the Sultan, but this yacht or barge had no engine and had to be towed by the HMS Chiwaka. Chiwaka was only armed with a machine gun and infantry rifles. So during the fighting in Zanzibar in 1896, the crew of the Chiwaka opened fire on the HMS Trust with their single Gatling gun or machine gun and a number of infantry rifles before the HMS Chiwaka was sunk by gunfire from the HMS Trust, thus ending the history of the smallest known gunboat in the Zanzibari fleet in 1896. Now, there was one other large gunboat serving in the Zanzibari fleet that was not present during the fighting, as she was based at this time in Oman, as she was based in the port of Muscat in the state or country or Sultanate of Oman at this time. And that is the vessel, the HMS Dar El Salam. HMS Dar El Salam was a steam yacht or armed yacht / gunboat that was constructed sometime between the years of 1870 and 1878. She served in the Zanzibari fleet off and on, but also served in the Omani fleet, being based in the port of Muscat. The Sultan of Oman, or the Sultan of Muscat, was actually a distant relative of the Sultan of Zanzibar, and the Sultan of Zanzibar allowed him to borrow the HMS Dar El Salam off and on between the years of 1882 and 1896. This vessel's displacement is unknown, but it seems that she weighed at least 200 to 300 tons. She was armed with one 138.6mm Model 1867 or Model 1870 18-pounder siege gun, which was actually a land artillery piece that was fitted to this vessel in the year of 1882. She might have been fitted with two 7-pounder guns. The 7-pounder was a type of naval gun that was reported to have been sold to Zanzibar in the year of 1875, long before the HMS Glasgow herself was constructed, which means that these guns were most likely fitted to the HMS Dar El Salam. Dar El Salam was also powered by a compound vertical triple expansion steam engine, and just like the HMS Glasgow, her hull too was made out of iron and wood, but her speed, range, and crew capacity are unknown. The HMS Dar El Salam was not present at the Battle of Zanzibar in August of 1896 and was still stationed in Oman during the fighting. She managed to survive the war, but was later decommissioned the same year by the British, meaning that at some point she was captured in the year of 1896, and her fate after the year of 1896 is unknown. But that's basically it. These were the forgotten ships or warships of the Sultanate of Zanzibar's Navy, or the Sultan's Navy, during the Anglo-Zanzibar War of August of 1896, the shortest war in recorded history, lasting just 38 to 45 minutes. There were several other vessels listed, but these were just merchant vessels used by the Zanzibari Navy, and these vessels were not armed until many years later in the early 20th century. But which of these were your favorite? If you ask me, my favorite would be either the Chukwani or the HMS Dar El Salam, as those two vessels are rarely ever mentioned in almost any British report when it comes to the Battle of Zanzibar in 1896. So what do you all think of this? Please tell me in the comment section below. And until next time, this was J-Man Time, signing off.